Welcome to my channel. Hello guys, I'm Screen Recorder and today we are going to do storytelling the Golden Branch part 2. So this is the last sentence from the part 1. Ah, how nice it would be to be as pretty as that. And then she looked at herself in a mirror and turned away quickly with tears in her eyes from the doleful sight. All at once, she became aware that she was not alone, for behind her stood a tiny old woman in a cap who was as ugly again as herself and quite as lame. "Princess," she said, "your regrets are so piteous that I have come to offer you the choice of goodness or beauty. If you wish to pretty, you shall have your way, but you will also be vain, capricious, and frivolous. If you remain as you are now, you shall be wise and amiable and modest." "Alas, my madam," cried the princess, "is it impossible to be at once wise and beautiful?" "No, child," answered the old woman. "Only to you it is discreet that you must choose between the two. See, I have brought with me my white and yellow muff. Breathe upon the yellow side, and you will become like the pretty stepfathers you so much admire, and you will have won the love of the handsome Stafford, whose picture I have already seen you studying with interest. Breathe upon the white side, and your looks will not alter, but you will grow better and happier day by day. Now you may choose." "Ah, well," said the princess, "I suppose one can't have everything, and it's certainly better to be good than pretty." And so she breathed upon the white side of the muff and thanked the old fairy, who immediately disappeared. The Princess Cabbage-Stalk felt very forlorn when she was gone and began to think that it was quite time her father sent an army to rescue her. "If I could but get up into the turret," she thought, "to see if anyone is coming, but to climb up there seems impossible." Nevertheless, she presently hit upon a plan. The great clock was in the turret, as she knew, though the weights hung down in the gallery. Taking one of them off the rope, she tied herself on in its place, and when the clock was wound, up she went triumphantly into the turret. She looked out over the country at first thing, but seeing nothing, she sat down to rest a little, and accidentally leaned back against the wall which Curlicue, or rather Prince Peerless, had so hastily mended. Out fell the broken stone, and with it the golden key. The clatter it made upon the floor attracted the Princess Cabbage-Stalk's attention. She picked it up and after a moment's consideration decided that it must belong to the curious old cabinet in the corner, which had no visible keyhole. And then it was not longer before she had it open and was admiring the treasures it contained as much as Prince Peerless had done before her. And at last she came to the carbuncle box. No sooner had she opened it than with a shudder of horror she tried to throw it down, but found that some mysterious power compelled her to hold it against her will. And at this moment a voice in her ear said softly, "Take courage, princess. Upon this adventure your future happiness depends." "What am I to do?" said the princess, trembling. "Take the box," replied the voice, "and hide it under your pillow, and when you see an eagle, give it to him without losing a moment." Terrified as the princess was, she did not hesitate to obey, and hastened to put back all the other precious things precisely as she had found them. By this time her guards were seeking her everywhere, and they were amazed to find her up in the turret, for they said she could only have got there by magic, for 3 days Nothing happened, but at last in the night, the princess heard something flutter against her window, and drawing back her curtains, she saw in the moonlight that it was an eagle. Limping across at her utmost speed, she threw the window open, and the great eagle sealed in beating with his wings for joy. The princess lost no time in offering it the carbuncle box, which it grabs in his talons and instantly disappeared, leaving in his place the most beautiful prince she had ever seen, who was splendidly dressed and wore a diamond crown. "Princess," said he, "for 200 years has a wicked enchanter kept me here. We both loved the same fairy, but she preferred me. However, he was more powerful than I, and succeeded, when for a moment I was off my guard, in changing me into an eagle, while my queen was left in an enchanted sleep. I knew that after 200 years a prince would recall her to the light of day, and a princess, in restoring to me the hand which my enemy had cut off, would give me back my natural form. The princess who watches over your destiny told me this, and it was she who guided you to the cabinet in the turret, where she had placed my hand. It is she also who permits me to show my gratitude to you by granting whatever favor you may ask for me. Tell me, princess, what is it that you wish for most? Shall I make you as beautiful as you deserve to be?" "Ah, if you only would," cried the princess, and at the same moment she heard a cracking in all her bones. She grew tall and straight and pretty, with eyes like shining stars and skin as smooth as silk. "Oh, wonderful! Can this really be my poor little self?" she exclaimed, looking down in amazement at her tiny worn-out couch as it lay upon the floor. "Indeed, princess," replied Flamimon. "It is yourself, but you must have a new name, since the old one doesn't suit you now. Be called Princess Sunbeam, for you are bright and charming enough to deserve the name." And so saying, he disappeared, and the princess, without knowing how she got there, found herself walking under shady trees by a clear river. Of course, the first thing she did was to look at her own reflection in the water, and she was extremely surprised to find that she was exactly the stepmother she had so much admired, and wore the same white dress and flowery wreath that she had seen in the painted windows. To complete the resemblance, her flock of sheep appeared, grazing around here, and she found a gay crew adorned with flowers upon the bank of the river. Quite tired out by so many new and wonderful experiences, the princess sat down to rest at the foot of a tree, and there she fell fast asleep. Now, it happened that it was in this very country that Prince Pierus had been set down, and while the Princess Sunbeam was still sleeping peacefully, he came strolling along in search of a shady pasture for his sheep. The moment he caught sight of the princess, he recognized her as the charming stepmother whose picture he had seen so often in the tower, and as she was far prettier than he had remembered her, he was delighted that the chance had led him that way. He was still watching her admiringly when the princess opened her eyes, and as she also recognized him, they were soon great friends. The princess asked Prince Peerless, as she knew the country better than she did, to tell her of some peasant who would give her a lodging, and she said he knew of an old woman whose cottage would be the very place for her. It was so nice and so pretty. So they went there together, and the princess was charmed with the old woman and everything belonging to her. Supper was soon spread for her under a shady tree, and she invited the prince to share the cream and brown bread which the old woman provided. This he was delighted to do, and having first fetched from his own garden all the strawberries, cherries, nuts, and flowers he could find, they sat down together and were very merry. After this they met every day as they gathered their flocks, and were so happy that Prince Peerless begged the princess to marry him, so that they might never be parted again. Now though the Princess Sunbeam appeared to be only a poor stewardess, she never forgot that she was a real princess, and she was not at all sure that she ought to marry a humble steward, though she knew she would like to do so very much. So she resolved to consult an enchanter, of whom she had heard a great deal since she had been a stewardess, and without saying a word to anybody, she set out to find the castle in which he lived with his sister, who was a powerful fairy. The way was long and lay through a thick wood, where the princess heard strange voices calling to her from every side. But she was in such a hurry that she stopped for nothing, and at last she came to the courtyard of the enchanter's castle. The grass and boughs were growing as high as if it were 100 years since anyone had set foot there, but the princess got through at last, though she gave herself a good many scratches by the way, and then she went into a dark, gloomy hall, where there was but one tiny hole in the wall through which the daylight could enter. The hangings were all of bats' wings, and from the ceiling hung 12 cats, who filled the hall with their ear-piercing yells. Upon the long table 12 mice were fastened by the tail, and just in front of each other's nose, but quite beyond its reach, lay a tempting morsel of fat bacon, so cats could always see the mice, but could not touch them, and the hungry mice were tormented by the sight or smell of the delicious morsels, which they could never cease. The princess was looking at the poor creatures in dismay, when the enchanter suddenly entered, wearing a long black robe, with a crocodile upon his head. In his hand he carried a whip made of 20 long snakes, all alive and breathing, and the princess was so terrified at the sight that she heartily wished she had never come. Without saying a word, she ran to the door, but it was covered with a thick spider's web, and when she broke it, she found another, and another, and another. In fact, there was no end to them. The princess's arms arched with tearing them down, and yet she was no nearer to getting out, and the wicked enchanter behind her laughed maliciously. At last she said, "You might spend the rest of your life over that without doing any good, but as you are young, and quite the prettiest creature I have seen for a long time, I will marry you if you like, and I will give you those cats and mice that you see there for your own. They are princes and princesses who have happened to offend me. They used to love one another as much as they now hate one another. Aha! It's a pretty little revenge to give them like that. Oh, if you would only change me into a mouse too," cried the princess. "Oh, so you won't marry me?" said he. "Little simpleton, you would have everything heart can desire." "No, indeed, nothing should make me marry you. In fact, I don't think I shall ever love anyone," cried the princess. "In that case," said the enchanter, touching her, "you had better become a particular kind of creature that is neither fish nor fowl. You shall be light and airy, and as green as the grass you live in. Off with you, Madam Grasshopper." And the princess, rejoicing to find herself free once more, skipped out into the garden, the prettiest little green grasshopper in the world. But as soon as she was safely out, she began to be rather sorry for herself. "Ah, Florimond," she sighed, "is this the end of your gift? Certainly beauty is short-lived, and this funny little face and a green crepe dress are a comical end to it. I had better have married my amiable Stafford. It must be for my pride that I am condemned to be a grasshopper and sing day and night in the grass by this brook when I feel far more inclined to cry." In the meantime, Prince Peerless had discovered that the princess' absence, and was lamenting over it by the river's brim, when he suddenly became aware of the presence of a little old woman. She was quaintly dressed in a ruff and fardingle, and a velvet hood covered her snow-white hair. "You seem sorrowful, my son," she said. "What is the matter?" "Alas, mother," said the prince, "I have lost my sweet stepmother, but I am determined to find her again, though I should have to traverse the whole world in search of her." "Go that way, my son," said the old woman, pointing towards the path that led to the castle. "I have an idea that you will soon overtake her." The prince thanked her heartily and set out. As she met with no hindrance, he soon reached the enchanted wood which surrounded the castle, and there he thought he saw the Princess Sunbeam gliding before him among the trees. Prince Peerless hastened after her at the top of his speed, but could not get any nearer. Then he called to her, "Sunbeam, my darling, only wait for me a moment." But the phantom did but fly faster, and the prince spent the whole day in his vain pursuit. When night came, he saw the castle before him all lighted up, and as he imagined that the princess must be in it, he made haste to get there too. He entered without difficulty, and in the hall the terrible old fairy met him. She was so thin that the light shone through her, and her eyes glowed like lamps. Her skin was like a shark's, her arms were thin as lead, and her fingers like spindles. Nevertheless, she wore ruffs and patches, a mantle of silver brocade, and a crown of diamonds, and her dress was covered with jewels, green and pink ribbons. "At last you have come to see me, prince," she said. "There was another thought upon that little stewardess who is unworthy of your notice. I am the queen of the comets, and can bring you to great honor if you will marry me." "Marry you, madam?" cried the prince. in horror. "No, I will never consent to that." Thereupon the fairy, in a rage, gave 2 strokes of her wand, and filled the gallery with horrible goblins, against whom the prince had to fight for his life. Though he had only his dagger, he defended himself so well that he escaped without any harm, and presently the old fairy stopped the fray and asked the prince if he was still of the same mind. When he answered firmly that he was, he called up the appearance of the Princess Sunbeam to the other end of the gallery and said, "You see your beloved there? Take care what you are about, for if you again refuse to marry me, she shall be torn in pieces by 2 tigers." The prince was distracted, for he fancied he heard his dear stepmother weeping and begging him to save her. In despair, he cried, "Oh, Fairy Doceline, have you abandoned me after so many promises of friendship? Help! Help us now!" Immediately a soft voice said in his ear, "Be firm, happen what may, and seek the golden branch." Thus encouraged, the prince perseverance in his refusal, and at length the old fairy, in a fury, cried, "Get out of my sight, obstinate prince! Become a cricket!" And instantly the handsome Prince Peerless became a poor little black cricket, whose only idea would have been to find himself a cozy cranny behind some blazing hut. If he had not luckily remembered the fairy Doceline's injunctions to seek the golden branch. So he hastened to depart from the fatal castle, and sought shelter in a hollow tree, where he found a forlorn-looking little grasshopper crouching in a corner, too miserable to sing. Without in the least expecting an answer, the priest asked it, "And where may you be going, game grasshopper?" "Where are you going yourself, gaffer cricket?" replied the grasshopper. "What? Can you speak?" said he. Why should I not speak as well as you? Isn't a grasshopper as good as a cricket?" said he. "I can talk because I was a prince," said the cricket, "and for that very same reason I ought to be able to talk more than you, for I was a princess." "For I was a princess," replied the grasshopper. "Then you have met with the same fate as I have," said he. "But where are you going now? Cannot we journey together?" "I seem to hear a voice in the air which said, 'Be firm, happen what may, and seek the golden branch,'" answered the grasshopper. "And thought the command must be for me, so I started at once, though I don't know the way." At this moment, their conversation was interrupted by 2 mice, who, breathless from running, flung themselves headlong through the hole in the tree, nearly crushing the grasshopper and the cricket. Though they got out of the way as fast as they could and stood up in a dark corner. "Ah, madam," said the fatter of the 2, "I have such a pain in my side from running so fast. How does your highness find yourself?" "I have pulled my tail off," replied the younger mouse, "but as I should still be on the sorcerer's table unless I had, I do not regret it. Are we pursuing you? How lucky we were to escape! I only trust that we may escape cats and traps and reach the golden branch soon, said the fat mouse. You know the way then? Said the other. Oh dear, yes, as well as the way to my own house, madam. This golden branch is indeed a marvel. A single leaf from it makes one rich forever. It breaks enchantments and makes all who approach it young and beautiful. We must set out for it at the break of the day. May we have the honor of traveling with you, this respectable cricket and myself, said the grasshopper, stepping forward. We also are on pilgrimage to the golden branch. The mice courteously assented, and after many polite speeches, the whole party fell asleep. With the earliest dawn, they were on their way, and though the mice were in constant fear of being overtaken or trapped, they reached the golden branch in safety. It grew in the midst of a wonderful garden, all the paths of which were strewn with pearls as big as peas. The roses were crimson diamonds and emerald leaves. The pomegranates were garnets, the marigolds tobages, the daffodils yellow diamonds, the violets sapphires, the cornflowers turquoises, the tulips amethysts, opals and diamonds, so that the garden borders blazed like the sun. The golden branch itself had become as tall as a forest tree, and sparkled with ruby cherries to his topmost twig. No sooner had the grasshopper and the cricket touched it than they were restored to their natural forms, and their surprise and joy were great when they recognized each other. At this moment, Florimond and the fairy Dulcinea appeared in great splendor, and the fairy, as she descended from her chariot, said with a smile, "So, you two have found one another again, I see, but I have still a surprise left for you. Don't hesitate, princess, to tell your devoted Stafford how dearly you love him, as he is the very prince your father sent you to marry. So come here, both of you, and let me crown you, and we will have the wedding at once." The prince and princess thanked her with all their hearts, and declared that to her they owe their all their happiness. And then the two princesses, who had so lately been mice, came and begged the fairy, who would use her power to release their unhappy friends who were still under the enchanter's spell. "Really," said the fairy Dulcinea, "on this happy occasion I cannot find it in my heart to refuse you anything." And she gave 3 strokes of her wand upon the golden branch, and immediately all the prisoners in the enchanter's castle found themselves free, and came with all speed to the wonderful garden, where one touch of the golden branch restored each one to his natural form, and they greeted one another with many rejoicings. To complete her generous work, the fairy presented them with a wonderful cabinet and all the treasures it contained, which were worth at least 10 kingdoms. But to Prince Peerless and the Princess Sunbeam, she gave the palace and garden to the golden branch, were immensely rich and greatly beloved by all their subjects. They lived happily ever after. This is the end of the storytelling, The Golden Branch Part 2. So last but not least, Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my video, share my video, and click on the bell. When you click on the bell, remember to turn on the notification so that you will know when I upload a new video every day. Last but not least, comment below for any topic or any story you would like to see on my next video, or any opinions or anything you would like to tell me. Just comment below. So we'll see you on the next video. Bye!